good. I'd like to call the August 10th Internal Services Committee meeting to order. With that, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next item is the adoption of the agenda. I'll take a motion to adopt.
So moved by Romano.
Support, Carabelli.
I heard motion from Romano and support from Carabelli. Seeing no questions, please vote.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thank you, Mike. Next is item 4A, approval of minutes for Internal Services Committee and joint meeting minutes.
So moved.
Motion from Carabelli, support from Commissioner Brown. Seeing no comments or questions, please vote.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thanks, Mike. Next up is public participation. Anybody from the public wishing to speak on any item on the agenda, you have 5 minutes. Give us your name and address. If you're on the phone, *6 to unmute yourself. And if you're in the Google Meet, put your name in the chat box and we'll go in the order that they're received. So first call for public participation. Public participation going twice. Third and final call for public participation. All right, seeing and hearing none, we will close the first public participation. There's also another one before the end of the meeting. And we will move on to item 6A, bypass approval requested at committee for contract for Burnco Inc. 2020 Masonry Restoration projects in the amount of $1,347,500. And I'll take a motion to give final full board approval at this committee.
So move, Hall.
Motion from Commissioner Haw. Is there support?
Kleinfeld.
Support from Commissioner Kleinfeld. Lynn, I think you're on the line. Go ahead.
I hope so.
You are. All right. Perfect. Take it away.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The purchasing department solicited sealed bids on the Mitten site for the 2020 Masonry Restoration project. 254 vendors were notified, 36 vendors viewed the documents, and 2 sealed bids were received and publicly read by purchasing on July 23rd, 2020. This project is for masonry restoration at Comtech, which includes tuck pointing, brick replacement, flashing and insulation replacement, sealant removal and replacement, and window replacement. Also included in this project is work at the administration building, which is removal and replacement of existing sealant and removal and replacement of existing plaza deck slab to facilitate re-waterproofing a portion of the tunnel connection to the county building. We will also be recoating a portion of the administration building plaza deck with the traffic-bearing waterproof coating. Also included in the project is the court building, and this is for removal and replacement of a portion of the plaza deck slab to facilitate re-waterproofing, rehabilitation of existing concrete beams and concrete wall and surfaces, and replacement of existing plaza deck trench drains, and the recoating of designated exterior concrete surfaces with a silicone elastomeric coating. A post-bid interview was conducted with the low bidder, Burnco, and they appear to have a clear understanding of the scope of the project. We are therefore requesting a recommendation to award to Burnco Incorporated in the amount of $1,347,500. Funds for this project are available in the 2020 Facilities and Operations operating budget. Burnco is a Macomb County vendor and the vendor disclosure form is included. The rationale for the bypass requested is due to COVID, we've seen a real slowdown in trying to get bid documents out. We're also seeing some issues with supply chain responses. So what we're requesting, if this project is approved, that the vendor can immediately start ordering materials. So we cut out down on that time frame of waiting for materials to arrive.
Thank you, Lynn. We have a couple questions. Commissioner Kleinfeld, you're up.
Thank you, Chair. Lynn, and I don't remember where we were with the parking lot underneath the ad building and that water issue. Is that part of this, or did you
Yes,
do?
it is.
It is part of this.
Yes, we've done different things that have minimized the problem. Now we think we need to go in and re-waterproof that plaza deck.
Okay. When you said plaza deck, I wasn't sure if that included that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ha.
Thank you, Chair. Lynn, what type of warranty are they offering on this type of product and services?
I'm sorry, I do not have that information in front of me, but I can certainly get that to you.
Would you please?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next is Commissioner Romano.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
Couple questions. The low bid from Burnco, what was the next highest bidder? Or I should say
Oh,
the
that
next
was
bidder.
Ram
Okay.
Construction.
And that was for?
That was their base bid was $1,411,594.
Okay, you know, when you mentioned something about this COVID and the slowdown, I'm hearing that all over from vendors, from people trying to get work done, and that includes everything from cement contractors, carpenters, all of it's a slowdown. What usually used to take 2 and 3 weeks is now taking a month and a half and 2. So I understand why you'd want to get this bypass. So thank you so much. That's all I have, Chair. Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lynn, a couple of quick questions. The tuck point, I know we budget for every year, but the actual all this additional work, was that planned for this year?
Yes. Yeah, the slowdown of getting this project out, it was dealing with Comtech, and that portion of the building, the original windows actually protruded out from the building, and the lintel above also protruded out. Sometime in the 1990s, it appeared that the windows were replaced and they were flush to the brick. So when they removed the windows, they cut off that protruding part of the lintel and it created a jagged edge. And then they installed a plate over it. So they actually blocked or trapped the weep cavity wall system. And in the process of ripping out the windows, we can see damage to the flashing.
Okay.
So we had to actually remove portions of that exterior wall to just see what was going on behind that wall.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions, so please vote.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
You too. Next
Thank
up,
you.
item 6B, COVID purchase, Presidio, interactive voice response in the amount of $132,191. I'll take a motion to approve that.
Leonetti will motion it up for forward to the full board.
Support from Romano.
Motion from Leonetti, support from Romano. Jaco, go ahead.
Good Good afternoon, commissioners. The IVR is a system that we currently use at the jail and one of our other departments, but we use it, for example, for prisoner information system. It's the type of system you're familiar with. If you dial into a company and there's nobody that can answer the phone, you can then work through software to get to different resources at the company. I know sometimes it's very aggravating. Some of us had experiences like that, but it is actually very useful during COVID. It helps our organization to make sure that we can always answer the phones and that we can also direct people to specific resources, even information that come from county systems, so that we can provide them that information without them having to talk to a person and so forth. So that is what the IVR is, and what we're doing with this is we're buying additional licensing that we want to use during COVID-19.
Thank you, Jaco. I don't see any questions or comments. We'll wait another second or two just in case. Seeing Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, Jaco. How you doing?
Doing good. How are you, Commissioner?
Good. So we're using on our agenda, some of these things, and anybody can answer this, I guess, says a COVID purchase. Are we using CARES Act money to purchase this item?
That's correct. The purchases that I have here today are all CARES Act purchases.
Okay. Now, I'm going to assume, and I hope this is a one-time shot, but is this Presidio Interactive Voice Response, does it have some kind of licensing fee that we might have to pay annually?
Yes, it has a licensing fee that we have to pay annually. It's on I think the third page of the document. We have to pay licensing fees of $32,640 per year.
Right. So, one of my big concerns is, I love software, I love the productivity, but is, the continuous, once we get the software, then we're kind of beholden to these companies for these licensing fees. And I know Commissioner Drolet asked this question at one of the previous meetings. Excuse me. There's no way we can use like COVID money to pay in advance for any of these licensing fees, right? To your knowledge?
No, we cannot pay future costs, beyond December 31st with COVID money. So we cannot pay for example, for next year's licensing costs. We can only pay, this year. I completely understand your concern, Commissioner. I can tell you that when the process that we go through with COVID purchases through CARES Act, it's not a situation of, this is great, we want to take it to the board. I actually have to make a business case for every single item that I want to buy through COVID. And then I go to a committee that, has to then decide whether they feel that this is a legitimate COVID purchase. In other words, they look at the financials, they look at all these things. And one of the things that our finance director is looking at very seriously, obviously, is cost, to the capital funds in the future. So, we definitely, at this point in time, we do not get approval for everything that we want to do. And these things are thought through, very well before we actually get it to the commissioners.
Okay, that certainly makes me feel better. That really does, because what I don't want to have happen is the rush because we have this CARES Act money that we go out and buy software that we might not have purchased to begin with because we didn't have all this money, and then 2-3 years down the road we're stuck with licensing fees, that as we've seen just continue to grow. So I feel a little bit better in your answer about that. Who's on that committee with you that looks at that?
The committee that we see is Vicky Walber and Steve Schmiegel.
And yourself?
No, I'm not on the committee. I go to them for approval.
Okay.
So we have submitted prior, when the CARE Act money arrived, we submitted as an organization IT, what we believe we should be doing with CARE Act money from an IT standpoint.
Okay.
And then those projects or line items, however you want to call them, we take those items to that committee probably, I would say, about every 2 weeks. And we are pretty close to being done with that now. I think we have about 7 or 8 items left, and it's mostly smaller line items. And then in the next month or so, we'll come with whatever else is approved and get
and I
that to
take
the
it like
board.
this item here in particular, you consulted with the department, with the jail, and they said, look, we could use something like this, right? And you saw it and thought this is a great opportunity to get it.
Exactly. At the jail we have some of this in place right now, but during the COVID times, we've had many requests for auto attendance, which is one thing, but also IVR type requests so that we can help departments, especially when everybody had to move out remotely, to help departments so they can man and answer their phones better, and also provide services through that process.
And so once again, just so I understand, you talk to the departments, they say, hey, there's some software that might help us. You research it, you look at it, and then you present it to Vicky and Steve, and they make the call as to whether or not it's going to be feasible.
That's correct.
I gotcha. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Good to see you sort of this way. Talk to you later. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mark Belden had some comments. Mark, you want to chime in real quick?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I do want to tell you that Steve Smeagol and his team have spent a lot of time on the phone with the county's auditors, Plant Moran, to ask some of the very questions like Commissioner Leonetti had asked. So we're moving very cautiously because we don't want to get in a situation where we're using CARE Act funds to cover equipment, but we were told early on that you cannot use any of the CARE Act money for future maintenance agreements. But having said that, it certainly appears that the new norm is not going to be what it was pre-pandemic. And we are still being asked by the governor to, if you can work from home, do work from home. And we may find in the future that as people continue to work remotely, we believe there will be economies of scale, meaning that we believe that we can reduce the workforce through attrition. So while we're spending a lot of CARE Act dollars in technology equipment so that employees can work remotely and still provide quality service to the public, we believe that any increase in the general fund for maintenance agreements or software licenses will be offset by the ability to reduce workforce in various departments across the county. So I just wanted to add that.
Thanks, Mark. Seeing no other questions or comments on this item, please vote.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thanks, Mike. Next is item C, COVID purchase, Presidio Meraki Systems Manager Enterprise Device License in of $19,200. Take a motion to send to full board for approval.
So moved, Kleinfeld.
Motion from Commissioner Kleinfeld. Is there support?
Support Romano.
Support from Romano. Thank you. Jaco, go ahead.
The Meraki system is a system, a mobile device management system, and if I can explain in very simple terms, it is software that we install or can install on any mobile device, a phone, a laptop, anything like that. And if somebody loses their device out in the field, we can then wipe that device remotely. which allows us, obviously, if somebody lose equipment with county data on it, we can pretty much disable that device completely and make sure that nobody can use or find the information. Other things that it does for us, it allows us to make sure that any type of computer or device that log into our network, also we can make sure that it has the appropriate antivirus software and requirements on that specific device to make sure that we will allow them to log into our network, especially when it's personally owned devices. We use this at this point in time, started implementing it with some of our departments, but we want to use this more widely in remote work and making sure that when people log in remotely that we have the ability to negate those devices if necessary.
Thank you, Jaco. I don't see any questions or comments, so Commissioner, please vote.
The motion passes 11-0.
Thanks, Mike. Next is item D, COVID purchased, Creative Breakthroughs, Inc., Cisco Duo Access Authentication, the amount of $64,800.
Jack will make the motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is there support?
Support by Hall.
Support by Commissioner Ha. Thank you. Jacob, go ahead.
Dual multi-factor authentication is something you're probably all familiar with, some maybe knowingly or not, but nowadays when you log into something, especially when it's banking and things like that, you will see that they sometimes send you a code and they want you to type that code into your computer or something like that. What that is multi-factor authentication. They don't allow anymore just the fact that you have a username and a password, that is the only way you need to authenticate. That additional step adds a very, very significant value in making sure that the person is actually who they say they is. So that's exactly what dual multi-factor authentication do for us. We use this today in the sheriff's office, but that is just, in the cars required by sieges. But for remote work, we believe that this is something that we have to use in making sure when people log into our network, because our users don't sit necessarily inside our network anymore. When they come in from the outside, we're going to be 100% sure that it is that person that's logging into our network. So that's what dual multi-factor authentication do for us.
Thanks, Jaco. I don't see any speakers. So commissioners, please vote.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Next is item E, COVID purchase, Creative Breakthroughs, Inc., Crowdstrike endpoint detection and response in the amount of $69,540.91. Take a motion to move to full board for approval.
Moved. So moved.
Motion from Brown, support from Myjack. Jaco, go ahead.
Crowdstrike is, in maybe more familiar terms, antivirus software. This is the new type of antivirus software. It uses artificial intelligence as well. And what that means is it's constantly checking for anomalies on our network to see if traffic behavioral patterns change. And when those things change, it notifies you immediately that something has changed, which is very, very useful in today's environment. Because as you probably know, when it comes to antivirus, when somebody find a new virus and release that, nobody has the virus definition files for that virus. So the company's best effort is they get those in their antivirus definitions as quickly as possible to protect you. But this actually can deter and also determine, strange patterns on your network even before you know that exists. During COVID-19, as you probably saw, that they really increased activity when it comes to ways that companies are trying, or these bad actors are trying to access people's networks. By playing on people's feelings during COVID-19 times, trying to solicit information from people by using, something like COVID-19. So we're doing that. Main purpose is here to make sure that we can secure our devices on that basis, but also, again, secure devices from an antivirus standpoint that dials in remotely to our network. We can even install them remotely and keep definitions and information up to date, even if somebody sits at their home with a county laptop, which was not doable before. So that's what this is for.
Thanks, Jaco. Seeing no speakers on this item either. All right, commissioners, please vote.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thanks, Mike. Next is item F, COVID purchase, Momentum, kiosk solution and scheduling software integration for friend of the court in the amount of $46,400. Take a motion to move to full board.
Move by Leonetti.
Motion by Leonetti, support from Haw. Jaco, and then maybe Thomas.
This request is to put kiosks in place and additional software that will help with the scheduling system at FOC. The system as it is today is currently in place. The kiosk is not in place. Kiosk is obviously a very good way of communicating with an organization when you arrive at a location without having to physically have or contact with another human being. So putting the kiosk in place and then allowing people as they come in, so that they can notify people when the court's ready for them. The way that this system works is everybody that's coming for that specific date needs to be available in the building before they actually start the proceeding. So they wait until that happens, and then everybody is ready to go. So it's really the biggest component of this is adding kiosks to that system.
Thanks, Jaco. Tom, do you have anything to add real quick?
Just that this is an upgrade to our current system, as Jaco indicated. The system we implemented is called MAMS, which is our Macomb Appointment Management System. We have a lot of people in our building, and now that we're on 7 floors, it's really imperative that we have the ability to move them around and get them where they need to be as quickly as possible. This upgrade is going to allow us to continue to do that, but it's also going to allow us to get people in and out of the building real fast, have kiosk check-ins, as Jaco indicated, where they don't have to see a receptionist. We're gonna not fill 3 positions for 2021, so this will really help us in terms of assigning other duties to the individuals that my people. And when we get there, and we will get there soon. So thank you for the opportunity to talk.
Thank you. I had Commissioner Romano, but he jumped off, so I'm guessing he's good. And I don't see any other speaker.
Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. The questions I had were just answered, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no other speakers, commissioners, please vote.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Next is item G, COVID purchase, is Fast Tech document conversion for human resources yellow cards in the amount of $12,019. Take a motion to move to full board for approval.
Moved by Romano.
Support Kleinfeld.
All right, motion and support. Thank you. Jaco, go ahead.
This item is for a company by the name of Vestec, who we already have working on 2 other scanning projects for us. To scan in the yellow cards at the HR department. The yellow cards is the personnel records that's been kept for many, many years physically on these yellow cards, written down and so forth. And those records have been kept, and there's quite a few of them, as you can imagine. And we scanning these documents in electronically so that they're accessible, because they do refer back to these documents from time to time and need to access them. So especially in work from home situations, when it's electronically available, they'll be able to search it electronically and find the information even if they're at home. And then they can take that information and do what they have to do with that information. So it's really, 2 things: making sure that it's available online for online work, but it's also a very good way to preserve these documents, a much better way, if you think about the fire of 2013, to preserve these documents and also have backups available for them.
Thank you, Jaco. Any questions or comments? I don't see any speakers. Give it another second. All right, commissioners, please vote.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Jaco. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, commissioners. Have a good afternoon.
You too. Next up is new business. Any commissioners with new business?
Commissioner Chair Kraft.
Commissioner Romano, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Kraft. Just a thought on our next meeting. I understand that we've invited some state legislatures as last time to have a town hall meeting. As the chair, Bob Smith, ever thinking about maybe we could have a town hall meeting for just the city managers, the supervisors. There's a lot of municipalities out there, the smaller ones that we never see that may have some good input. And it's just a thought and suggestion. So I'm looking forward to the next meeting for the town hall. Thank you. That's all I have, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioners with new business?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is Rob here, my Jack here, new business. Thanks. So just some information here. We had a couple of drainage board meetings today. They went good. And this is geared towards Commissioner Romano. Candace Miller in the Public Works Department is going to be meeting in front of the Sterling Heights City Council Tuesday night, September the 1st. And they are going to be going over many projects that Public Works is going through in the city of Sterling Heights. I just want to let you know about that. Joe and anybody else who would like to attend. And you can attend live Sterling Heights Council. It's limited. You have to wear a mask, and I'm sure there's social distancing there. But just want to let everybody know, but especially for Joe. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Any other commissioners with new business? I just wanted to put out a reminder that August 24th is the meeting that Commissioner Romano was referring to with the state representatives and hopefully senators or elected officials coming to a town hall meeting to present to us and give us an update on what's going on. So I'm seeing no other commissioners with new business. We will close that out and move on to public participation. Anybody from the public wishing to speak, you have 5 minutes. Give us your name and address. And if you're on the phone, *6 to unmute yourself. Anybody from the public going once? Public participation going twice. Third and final call for public participation. All right, hearing and seeing none, we will close public participation.
Motion to adjourn, Drollet.
Motion to adjourn from Drollet. Is there support?
Support.
Who was that from?
Don Brown.
Support from Brown. All right, we are adjourned. Have a good day, everyone.
Good meeting, Chair.
Good to see you.